I brought the wagon today and I'm en route to pick up a shop tool I've lusted after for a very long time, but I never dreamt it could bite me like it does a bit later. I'm off to Irish Garage Equipment to pick up my very first floor standing hydraulic press. Yay! I was spotted trying to press the Lotus's rear wheel bearings by hand last video. Yeah, I hear that now that I say it out loud. And the lads at Irish Garage Equipment said, try this instead. Hold my beer, I said. And that's where the crack ended. If you have your tools on a pegboard or nailed to the wall in your garage all at right angles to each other, that's called knolling. Maybe you knew that, but fittingly it was a janitor at a famous furniture company who coined the term, having arranged tools so that everything could be seen at once. It's now firmly an art thing, but it does work when you're dealing with the entire suspension hardware of a classic car. Speaking of which, these are the dampers I've gotten to replace the wrecked original rears and 35-year-old aftermarket fronts on the Esprit. No, they're not new, but they're not much used either. They're adjustable for height of the rear and for damping effort both front and rear. Now let me answer the question that gets asked the most, and in lots of different ways, but is essentially, why don't you just throw money at this part or that thing? The answer, and I speak on behalf of any YouTube creator with a channel of my size or smaller, there isn't that much money. In fact, though my bit has always been to show what can be possible when you do as much as you can do yourself, I don't really have a choice. I have to fix every problem I can in-house. And there's a real world problem about to unfold in front of your very eyes. But just to say that if you're still here at the end and you hear me shout out thanks to my channel's patrons, be glad of them too, because I'd be hanging up the tools and looking for a 9 to 5 without them. So anyway, let's start bolting things together and try and avoid the inevitable fudge up that's coming. Here it is. It's not the greatest angle, but watch the flange in the bottom of the arm that the ball is being pressed into, or supposed to be pressed into. Instead of the ball joint being drifted into it, this happens. Oh, it's worse than it looks. The joint itself is exploded, the lower arm is deformed, and I even managed to wreck the nut on top. I did so many things wrong here. First, I used the wrong size drifts to support the lower arm because I didn't assess where the force would need to be counteracted. so the press forced the metal to give way and to form inside the drift. On top of that, I didn't line up the ball joint taper and nut so that they could pass through the bottom of the drift. And lastly, and most importantly, I wasn't paying attention. I was distracted by other Lotus related problems that you'll hear about when I figure them out, but I was so disheartened by the damage I had just done. I stopped work and did a bit of venting behind the scenes, and a few hours went by before I started to slowly come back to form and realise I could at least attempt to repair the arm. Beginning by pressing the destroyed joint back in from the other side to see if it would flatten the bulge I had created in it. What I found is the flange that holds the ball joint in the arm is 10mm deep, but at the back the metal has crushed and bunched up and left the flange less than half that depth. It's just no good for peace of mind, so the only option is cut the whole thing out and replace it with new metal. And just when I thought the new press would save me from having to ask, I'm back scrounging for steel from the guys next door. So thanks Robbie and Mark for the dig out. It turns out I hadn't learned my lesson well enough. Sometime between measuring the lower arm flange and cutting out the piece of exhaust pipe donated by the lads next door, I got the measurements mixed up. The exhaust was too small. So I went to my happy place, literally, and started measuring anything cylindrical I could get my hands on. And guess what? The rear dampers from a Mercedes 123 are the exact dimensions of a Lotus Esprit Series 2's lower front link arm ball joint seat. Or so I thought. But watch on, you intrepid person, you. That's gonna need paint. But in the meantime, I'm down one ball joint. Back on the scrounge, and lo, I find one of the joints I took off the car was still serviceable. Because budget. Phew, that second pressing went perfectly, because I paid attention and was super duper scared. Now on the whole reusing an old ball joint score, fear not. Look what new joy befell my efforts. The distance from the ball joint seating flange to the taper is different between the two ball joints, which raises many questions. Ones I don't have the answers to, but I'll be erring on the side of caution and looking for a match for the new joint. Still, I did what counts as restoration in the digital world to the old one, and if by chance a ball joint happens to ball off down the road in the future, I could just slip a new one in and mash the pedal into the sunset. Never look back or under my car. That was the anti-roll bar to lower link bush I was pressing in. It didn't work with the nut and bolt setup, so I used the press to show it who's the boss of wrecking new parts with a press. The shopping list for replacement parts just got one item longer. So I moved on to making some stainless washers for various parts where stainless washers will look nice. I made an oversized washer in 8mm steel too, as a special tool for drifting in those ARB bushes. Stay tuned for a future update on wrecking those. All in all, I had some mega fun with the new press. Despite my inability to use it, it's already such a major win for the build, so a big thank you to Irish Garage Equipment for helping me out. Now, landing parts for this car quickly is impossible, but wheels are going on as soon as I do. Almost 3/4 of the chassis is built up with wheel holding bits. Copyright TM. It's that time to be appreciative. So, to Cesare, Michael Wappett, Grusvag, Simon Guisas, Gary Roberts, Baba Fixit, Taylor Jackman and Edward Duffin, thank you for being my patron and for allowing me to crush new parts with new toys. I'm off to place a few orders. If by chance you know of a pair of Esprit Series 2 seats, door cards or front brake dust shields, the latter also used on the Opel Ascona B, Manta B and GT, drop me a line. More on those bombshells when the time is right. But until then, thanks for watching, stay stuck in, and good luck. And don't break anything.